Hey everybody, this is the video that goes along with the 5-coin multi-use jig. This jig goes with 40 millimeter coins and brass coins. It'll fit the Xtool F1, F1 Ultra, and also standard fiber machines. We've got the F1 here and then a standard fiber. I'm working with somebody else who has an Ultra, and that's how we developed this product. So you've got bolt holes here for the F1, Ultra, and fiber. Now the problem with doing a multi-use unit is the bolt spacing is different on every unit between the F1, F1 Ultra, and the fiber. So it gets a little bit tricky on mounting and making it compatible with every possible machine. However, we've done it and we've tested it and it works. And so you're probably here because you have the template and you want to know how to mount the unit. So after you've purchased the jig, you'll have a link to go download the templates on our website, hotfabs.com. If the link doesn't take you directly to the download page, you click on shop and then you'll find our products and search for the template. And here you'll see the product link. We open it up and it's a free download. It goes with your purchase. You can see here it's download only. So it has 3 files, F1, F1 Ultra, and Lightburn. So 2 XCS files and a Lightburn file. If you just add it to your cart, the whole thing is free. The file downloads anyway. And then click on checkout and you'll see the total is 0. So you just enter your information, it's free, and once you finish checking out, you'll get the download, which you download on your computer. So here you can see I've downloaded the 2 XCS files and the Lightburn file to the computer. It's important that you put them in a folder, not just in your downloads folder. So the fiber laser and the F1 Ultra are pretty straightforward because the coin jig is I mean, those units are big enough to fit the whole thing. The F1's a little bit trickier because it only fits 3 coins, but I'm going to show you how to set this up on the F1 if that's all you've got. As I said, we had to design this thing so it would fit every unit. So it's not going to be exactly centered on the F1. It's going to be where you'll have 3 coins right, and 2 of them are going to be right to the edge, but we'll show you here. So you're going to need some M3 bolts, and I would recommend going as short as possible, probably a 6 if you can find them, but the smallest I have are the 8s here, the M3x8. It's a metric. So we have the jig placed, and we'll just put a couple of the bolts in here. Just for illustration, I'm only doing 2, but I would probably put all 4 in there. And the thing about Galvo units, like the F1s and the fiber Galvo lasers, is they don't all come from the factory exactly the same as far as framing goes and where the laser hits. So you're going to possibly have to do a little bit of tinkering with the actual position of the template to match the jig on the bed. And you can see there's a little bit of play here. And the reason for that is because this is steel, we had to make the holes big enough to fit the M3, M4, and M6 bolts in order to get them through and still work. So here you can see that I've got the Xtool XCS software opened up. So here you're going to click on Open Project. It'll take you to your whatever folder you put the template in. Here's the F1, here's the F1 Ultra. So we're going to open the F1. All right, so here you can see that the template is loaded. I've already modified this so that you don't have the other two coins showing up, so it does fit the bed, and I've tested it, and the laser does hit all of the edges. You do 3 at a time here with the F1 Ultra, and Fiber do 5. So for centering, here's what you want to do. These are all grouped right now, and there's a ton of videos on YouTube. I'm not going to teach you how to use XCS here, just showing you how to line up your jig, assuming you already know what you're doing. And you can see that these are grouped, and you can click and ungroup them to move them individually if you want to or have to. I also have them set to output, which is going to allow the machine to frame. So let's click on framing. And normally it starts off with that outline. I would go ahead and go back up here, and rectangle, click on outline and frame it individually. That way you can see the individual coins being framed, and just kind of take a peek and see if it's, if these framing marks should be right on the edges of each one of the coin holes. And then what you're going to do is go back to the XCS software. If it's off a little bit, so make sure it's bolted down. If it's off a little bit, you can either just tweak the jig just a hair, or if it's off quite a bit, like say 1 millimeter, you can go over here and change the positions. X is left and right, Y is up and down. So either way, you can move this just fractions of a millimeter to get it correct. And like I said, if it doesn't line up, it's just because Galvos don't always have the exact same tuning when they come from the factory, believe it or not. Go up here and we're going to import an image. It's important that your image is ready for engraving. That means the background is transparent, or it's an SVG. That way you can still see your template here. Now this guy is too big, so go over here. You can see the size. You want the image to be smaller than the template. So let's go 38 millimeters because you're on a 40 millimeter coin, and that way it'll fit inside the template. So then you just drag this down to center up inside the template there. And XCS does have some auto blocking, I guess. I can't remember the perfect term right now, but it automatically shows you the lines if it's lined up. So here you can see this one is lined up in the exact center of that template outline. Now here's another thing that's important. You're going to want to change your image to a different layer. So we want to put this image on a different layer than the template circles. So we're going to give it a different color. So you click on your image, and then right click, and you're going to see move to, and then down here you've got different layer colors. So click on, say, red. All right, so now you've got 2 different layers. You've got black and red. Black is the template, red is going to be the one you want to output. Okay, so click out of that. And now you can see our black layer is not output, but we click on our red layer, it is output. So that's the only thing that the Xtool is going to frame now. So you've got that selected. Look at your power, make sure you set the power the way you want it. I'm not going to teach you power settings right now, but just make sure you have your power set up. Put your coins in there. Make sure you're focused here with the beam on the jig. And one thing to note is the coins are going to be a little bit lower, but it's such a small amount that I don't think it's going to make any difference. You're going to have to do a little bit of testing here and there just to make sure. But let's go ahead and frame this. All right, so just that is set to output. We've got outline selected, and we're going to go ahead and click frame. All right, so you can see that the framing, it's kind of blurry. It's easier for me to see it with my eyes than the phone or the camera here, but if you need to move it just a little bit, just a hair, you can move it about 1/4 of a millimeter to get it exactly lined up inside the ridges of the coin. All right, and once it looks good to you, and of course you'll be doing 3 possibly, but you could do just 1, then you know you're all lined up. And then, you know, if you want to do 3 coins at a time, you just right click and then you can click on copy and then paste over here, do the same thing, lining it up. Okay, so this next step is critical. Once you have your design down where you've got all 3 images set, you need to go up here and click File and then Save As. You're going to save it as something else, okay? You do not want to destroy your template by saving it with all these images in there, because then you're going to have to start all over. So make sure when you have your images in here, you click Save As, and then change the name so that it's not the same name as the template. That way you can start over with a different design if you want later, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and close out the F1 example. Pretty much the same process with the Ultra, it's just a bigger canvas. So click no for me, no. All right, so if you're using Lightburn with a fiber, it's a little different process, but basically you've got a new page open here. Make sure you have your lens matched up with what you're using. I'm using a 300 right now, and I'm gonna go ahead and import the template file, which is going to be right here, 5 coin jig template. All right, and there it is, pops up. I had to fiddle with this one a little bit because my Galvo didn't like the spacing from my CAD program, so I had to move these individually a little bit. Now, if you run into the same thing, because Galvos are kind of funny, you can, in this template, you can ungroup right here. Actually, these are not grouped yet, but I'm going to go ahead and group them. You can ungroup them, and each one can be moved individually. Like if you go up to the laser and the circles are kind of weird, not lined up, you can move them slightly individually and get it done. But I've got you set up here. I use this using a 300mm lens, but if you've got something different, just go ahead and tinker with it a little bit. This is not an extensive YouTube Lightburn instructional video. So I'm going to click frame. And your bolt holes in your bed may not line up the same way as mine, so you might have to move the whole thing as a group until they do. Let's just see where we're at here. Yeah, so mine's off quite a bit from when I lined it up the first time. So this is actually good instructional for you. So everything needs to go over to the right, as you can see, once you bolted it down. Don't forget to focus, because that will really screw things up if you haven't focused on the jig. Now, like I was saying, when you're using a Galvo, they're not always lined up. As you can see, the template here on this file looks like I'm on the center of the bed, but when I put it onto my bed, it's not on the center, because some of these beds are offset a little bit. So in this case, if you're going to move all of them, you make sure you're grouped, and then we can move it to the right a little bit, X is left and right, Y is up and down. So we're gonna go like 3 millimeters and then go back in frame. And I have another video on this for our single coin jigs as well. That's a little bit shorter, strictly for Lightburn. So now looks like we need to go over about 2 more millimeters. So we just go close. I wish you could move it just like you do in XCS. Okay, so here, I know you can't see in the video, but it looks like we're over 1 millimeter to the right too far. So I gotta go back 1 millimeter. And this is, you only have to do this once. Once you've done this, you save your template file. There we go. You save it, and then it's like that forever, unless your machine changes. So there we got them all signed up. Or, I'm sorry, lined up. Another thing I wanted to show you is that, like I said, with the F1 and the X-Tool stuff, we had to have just a little bit of play to get the bolts in there. It's maybe a 1/10, I'm guessing, or 0.2 millimeters, but you can move this slightly. Like if you see that the laser's up on the edge here, you can just push it over just a hair. The big thing is that these are all centered, and if you have to ungroup and get them exact, it's a one-time deal. Once you're done with that, you don't ever have to mess with it again. Another thing to note with the template file here is you can see that the template outlines are they are set to the tool path, so they will not output other than framing. So the tool path in Lightburn's right there or right there. When you import an image, it's the same thing as the XCS software. You import the image and then you center it inside the circles exact, and you might have to eyeball it a little bit and just count the spacing, but don't make the image any more than about 38 millimeters so you can stay inside the rim of the coin when you do that. And it's the same thing, just make sure it's on a different layer, black or whatever, different than the templates layer. Okay, lots of videos out there on YouTube for, you know, working with Galvos and everything else and Lightburn. So please don't put a bunch of comments down there. I'm not a Lightburn or an XCS instructor. I'm just showing you simply how to line up our template. And do remember, there is a little bit of play, but you're doing 3 to 5 coins at a time, which is going to ultimately save you time, and that's the whole point of this efficiency with this tool. All right, so if you stumbled across this video and you don't have the jig, there's links down below in the description. We sell them on Etsy and our website. So happy to have you as a customer, and hope you enjoyed the video.